All right. All right, guys, I am here with Anthony and Chris from Slaughter Creek Manor. And today we're going to get into some conversation and talk about a few things coming up that you don't want to miss. Guys, let them know who you are and where you're located.
Go ahead.
I'm Anthony, this is my dad Chris, and we are from Slaughter Creek Manor Haunted House, located in the Polo Field subdivision in Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Make sure you get out to see them this year, but stay tuned. We're going to get into what Slaughter Creek Manor is all about and some cool things coming up that you don't want to miss. All right, so we are here with Slaughter Creek Manor. If you guys haven't seen our videos, you can go back and check out videos. We've been there twice to visit, and it's a blast every time here. But I wanted to have you guys get a chance to know Chris and Anthony here a little better. So we're gonna, give them a chance to kind of tell you a little bit more about what it is they do here. But if you want to start off by just giving us a little background on Slaughter Creek Manor, how did it start? What was the motivation, and all that good stuff. So however you guys want to tackle that.
All right. I guess so we've been home haunting since 2013. We visited Cedar Point, very into Cedar Point, amusement parks, things like that. And we went, and it was Happy Jack's Toy Factory, I think it was a haunted house they had there. And instantly fell in love with haunted houses, and it was something that I was like, I think we can do this ourselves, something like this ourselves. Didn't know anything about like home haunting as an industry or anything like that.
How old were you at the time? You were young.
We were young. I was young. Well, if we started in 2013, I would have been
12.
11 or 12,
yeah.
Something like that.
Oh, a bit young.
Well, because it was the year after I think we started, because it was already haunt season when we visited, so it was the following. So we opened the first home haunt in 2013, and that actually went a little bit in our garage, but it was mostly in the basement.
Oh, wow. So it actually went into the house.
Yeah, it went into the house.
Wow.
I don't know how many people we had, because, it was an amount that would be reasonable to have people go through your house. But the next year we decided just to consolidate it to the garage.
Okay.
So then 2014, and every year we would change our theme. So every year we'd have a new name, new theme like that. As we kind of went on and the bar got raised every year, it got more and more expensive to produce a brand new theme every year at the same quality.
Yes.
Or higher, actually. So we decided in 2022 it would have been to create Slaughter Creek Manor and run with it.
Okay.
So 2021 we had Beast in the Bayou, which is still one of my favorite haunts that we've ever done. That has a special place in my heart. And you'll see coming this fall, you'll see a lot of in our story, in our theme, and the way we decorate our sets, you'll see a lot of that Beast in the Bayou kind of percolate into it. But so 2022 we opened Slaughter Creek Manor, and then we had it 2023, 2024, and then now this year in 2025.
Awesome, very cool. So Cedar Point is responsible for some of this madness, huh?
Yes,
that's wild. So so it's funny. So I moved out to Michigan in 2012 is when I first got here, and it was funny because I grew up, in California. That's where most of the family is, and it was kind of wild because the Not Scary Farm was like a way of life growing up. And it was kind of funny because I think the first time I went was probably around 12 years old. I went to Not Scary Farm, blown away. It was crazy because at the time, and if you ever get a chance, go back and watch, there's documentaries on Knott's. It's crazy how much history started there. It's kind of nuts, but like all the sliders, the original sliders, they all came from there. But I remember the first time I went, my friend's mom dropped us off. We get to the parking lot. There is fog all throughout the parking lot. I'm talking waist high. There were sliders in the parking lot. Literally, guys were popping up out of the fog. I mean, they were freaking you out in the parking lot. And over time, because of liability, they had to calm a lot of that stuff down. And then the park already had kind of good bones because Knott's Berry Farm was literally a farm. So it had a lot of Old West motif in there already.
Right.
So transitioning into a Halloween haunt was just, it was a no-brainer. So anyway, I grew up, like I said, doing that, and like I still haven't been back in a while, and I want to go because it's kind of like almost like completing the journey. So obviously there was a lot of inspiration there. But I get to Michigan, and everybody's talking about Halloween weekends. Everybody's like, "Oh, you gotta go to Halloween weekends," and I'm just like, "What is Halloween weekends?" So for the first time, I think it was it 2019? We went to Cedar Point for the first time, and they had oversold. An annual pass, and it was I think they were doing $100 for a season pass. Oversold them, and literally we ended up getting stuck in Sandusky trying to get it onto the causeway. Some girl ended up getting killed. It was insane. It was it was logistically, it was a nightmare. They just didn't think about how much they had sold. But this was my first time going. So we went, and I get in there, and I'm just sitting here going, wow, this really looks familiar. This really feels familiar, like some of the things that were happening. And I couldn't shake it. So we bought that pass. So we go again the next year, took some friends. Once again, I'm still going, man, some of this just feels familiar. Well, little did I know that Cedar Fairs owns Knott's. Yep. I didn't realize that. Well, they bought Knott's later on, and when they bought Knott's, they basically were like, we need to basically take what you're doing for Halloween and we need to spread it out through all of our parks. And I didn't realize that, and I was like, that explains it, because it all started there. But funny you mentioned that, because the first thing that blew me away at Cedar Point was Cornstalkers.
Yeah.
And obviously you could see the influence of that and what we do. So it's funny you said that influenced you.
Yeah.
But yeah, what would you describe your home haunt as? We know your theme, Slaughter Creek Manor, but is there a backstory, or is there anything? Is there overall thematic? What would you, if you were to say here, there's a general theme, what would you describe that as?
So new in 2025 is coming our full story.
Okay.
We didn't really put that much emphasis into really creating a story or key characters or a storyline. A little bit with Grandma, with a key character, icon character, but we didn't really emphasize too much our storyline. So with this tear down, renovation, and everything, it's kind of like a nice clean slate for us to really build up our story and then build our haunt along that storyline. So it's not finalized, but the basic storyline is that Slaughter Creek Manor, there was an old farmhouse.
Okay.
And there's a little creek that ran by the farmhouse, and the farmhouse, they raised livestock and everything, and there was a slaughterhouse with the manor and everything like that, and they would sell various products or whatever, and then so that's Slaughter Creek Manor, that name of that creek, given its proximity to the slaughterhouse, and the manor's named Slaughter Creek Manor. And then it's based in the 1800s. So it is an 1800s, old farmhouse.
Okay.
And somewhere along the way, a drought came over the land and really dried up, their crops. They're having trouble feeding their livestock, things like that. So they fell on some rough times. So they tried a lot of things, but in an act of desperation, through some rumors, kind of through the grapevine, they gathered, their family, the fellow farmers, townsfolks, things like that, and they held a seance.
Okay. This is always a bad move, guys.
You can see some commonalities in where things go wrong, but they held a seance for this kind of mystical, dark side of Mother Nature. So you have Mother Nature.
Okay.
And then we're creating a kind of other half of Mother Nature, which is more this darker, the scarier side of Mother Nature. It's like a separate entity.
Gotcha.
So they held a seance to this, but made the fatal mistake of holding it inside the house instead of outside where they were supposed to. So they misread the instructions.
Of course.
Now all of a sudden this dark side of Mother Nature, this dark entity, has now infiltrated the house and is now growing and seeping its evil all throughout the house.
Oh, wow. So all they had to do was hold this seance outside and the house would have been pretty much exempt from all this insanity.
Yep.
Well, it's hindsight's 2020. I can't say we would have done better, but we've learned a lesson from these guys. That's awesome. I love that.
Finalizing the details of the story and trying to polish things off, but that's the general basis.
That's super exciting. I think it's always exciting to have some lore because, you can really build on that. Right. And it's neat. You wish everybody would invest into it, but what's neat is that certain people start to look for little things, and it's kind of neat. Every once in a while, you have that one golden visitor that goes, "Hey, I noticed blah, blah, blah." Yeah. It was kind of funny. We had one year where this lady came through and she tapped me on my shoulder. We were trying to get everything going, and you've seen it. It's chaos sometimes, and it's chaos. So, but she tapped me on my shoulder, and I'm like, "Hey, is everything okay?" And she goes, "No." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry. What can I do?" And she goes, "Well, I'm trying to read your story." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, that's cool." Mm-hmm. And she goes, "There's no light. I can't see." And so from now on, when we put that poster board out, we've always got a light on it now. So thank you for your, somebody cared. So hopefully you have a lot of those people. But I think that's awesome and that's exciting, just to see the storyline. So.
Are you going to have a poster board, you think, to tell the story?
Oh yeah.
That's awesome.
As people enter.
Yeah, we have to figure out something. Not to make it. We have to try to make it concise, and so.
Gotcha. So I'll drop this in here since we talked about it offline, but just to show you the painstaking effort that goes into this. You started your build in November.
Well, so 2025 is our 13th season.
That's awesome.
Of home haunting. So we figured 13th season is an appropriate time to kind of go through this rebranding.
Yeah.
Not so much of a rebranding, but a renovation.
A remake.
Yeah. So we tore everything completely. The garage was the cleanest it had ever been in years for about like a day. It was
hashtag goals.
Yeah, we stripped everything down. All the 2x4s, all the ground. You can see pictures on our Instagram, but it was just spotless. And then, right after we did that, we started building right back up again. We got started framing, putting in drywall, taping, mudding, wallpaper, trim, flooring, ceiling, everything like that. And our goal with it is, you always talk about how the gap between like home haunting and professional haunting is closing. Mm-hmm. And then so our challenge, or our challenge to ourselves, or our goal, is to see how close, how tight we can make that gap to really try to make it as professional level as we possibly can.
Gotcha. That's awesome. That's awesome. One thing I was going to ask you guys, obviously, with haunting, I've always said it's kind of like music. The inspiration is 360 degrees. Like, not to say there's not an original idea, but everything has been re-owned and are somehow, because I think the ether, we all kind of think alike as haunters. You know what I mean? I even talk to, you have these conversations where you talk to even pro hunters, and you're sitting there and they're talking about something, and you're sitting here going, oh my God, he's literally reading my mind. Mm-hmm. Like, I remember we went to Deranged last year. No, not last year. It was the end of 2023. We went to Deranged Haunt in Romulus, and we had been sitting here going, we need to work on a barn facade. We had been saying that, and even though we did, we were sitting here walking through, and Adam, one of the builders there, comes over and he goes, dude, I just did this cool barn facade. And I'm just sitting here going, holy crap, dude. But with that being said, I think a big part of it is just the inspiration of seeing different things. Have you guys gotten out to any pro haunts or any pro haunts that you guys want to see?
Yeah, it's a list.
There's a list.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk it. Let's talk the bucket list. What do you got on there so far? Let's say your top 10.
So we usually go to a lot of the Cedar Fair haunts. We've done Wired's several times.
Gotcha. Wired isn't bad. I was not expecting them to be what they were. I thought it was going to be a lot less, and I guess caught me off guard.
Yeah.
I think they've got I've seen a lot of hay rides. I think they've got one of the best hay rides in the country. I'd probably put them in the top 10.
Yeah.
Because I've seen from the LA Hayride to Bates Motel to all these ones that are, famous around. But I was like, they're pretty good hayride. Yeah.
So that's usually the haunted houses that we go to are, Cedar Point, Kings Island. We go to all those. And you were mentioning Knott's Berry Farm. There is a noticeable difference between even right now, and Cedar Fair is Six Flags merged, are now all Six Flags anyway. But there's a noticeable difference between Knott's Scary Farm haunts and your Cedar Point, your
Kings
Island haunts, and they're great. But as far as professional, true one-off professional haunts, we really haven't gone to much. But I don't know what's on your list, but
the challenge is the timing, because we're so busy building and running Slaughter Creek Manor that we never have time to get to these.
That is the curse.
And that's part of the reason for this renovation is we want to make this something where, it's gonna be set. Most of it will be permanent. It'll be to a point that at least I am, and my dad is content with the quality of it. There's not a whole lot of stuff that we can do, so that frees up our time, especially in September, because we still run in October, but at least in September, to actually go out and experience more haunts. So as far as haunts on my list, I don't know about you, but Hell's Gate is definitely probably number one on my list.
That's a good one to have as number one.
Eloise Asylum is probably close to.
Yeah.
And then your Dent Schoolhouse, your really high caliber haunted houses. I think everyone has a different idea, or they look for different things to for them to what constitutes a great haunted house. I'm more interested in a Hell's Gate type haunt than I am
production style.
Yeah, maybe then maybe then a haunt like the Darkness, for example, in St. Louis, where again, they're both fantastic haunted houses, but for me it's when I look for in a haunted house, it's the Darkness is almost too much. It's sensory overload.
Right.
It's there's so much going on, and there's not. It's just too much in my opinion. But Hell's Gate, there's just that real true one singular theme that is done extremely well.
Yeah.
And the location of it, the setting of it.
They are masters of immersion. They really are. Yeah.
So I don't know about you, but
pretty much covers it. Maybe Erebus,
yeah. I'm with you guys. I'm really embarrassed to say that I haven't been, and these are under our noses, which is every time I talk to somebody who's not from Michigan, they're like, wait, what? You know what I mean? They're like, you've been to Eloise, right? I'm like, no, I haven't. And they're like, what? And I'm like, oh, of course you've been to Erebus. And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
So yeah, we definitely would like to get to those, and we still haven't been to Rotten Manor, believe it or not. And that's another one that's on our list. That's right here. That's why last year we tried to focus on going to some haunts. But yeah, those are some great ones. And if I throw in some honorable mentions, which kind of sounds like it's along the lines of what you love, Haunted Overload is probably one of those huge. I don't know if you've ever seen up in New Hampshire, Haunted Overload. Eric Lothar's go look them up if you haven't. They are. See, some haunted houses are attractions, and then there's some that I figure are life experiences. Hell's Gate falls into a life experience where you're like, okay, that was something that happened to me, and it wasn't just me going to an attraction and buying a ticket. I literally walked away going, holy crap, I need to unbox what just happened. Haunted Overload kind of the same way. I've followed them. I haven't been there physically, and I know that knowing all the stuff and seeing the pictures doesn't do enough, but they're up in New Hampshire, they're in the woods, and they do mega structures. I mean, when I say mega structures, everything is I'm talking like most of the stuff you can walk into, it's all physical. You've probably seen them. They do day tours. People go there.
Is that the one that they, like, a lot of those structures are made like out of like tree
wood.
And like bark and wood? Yeah, okay. I've seen the online videos of that.
Yeah, it's just it stinks because it's kind of logistically, there's New Hampshire's kind of like off the beaten path, so it's not like there's a major airport there. So you'd probably, and Salem is about an hour away, but Salem doesn't have an airport, so you have to like probably fly into Boston, then drive to Salem, and you figure out where you're going to stay. Salem's super expensive, and then from there you can go, I'll drive up. So that's been the logistic issue with us getting out there. It's just been like, wait, we're going to spend how much to go to a haunt? You know what I mean? And yeah, we can make the excuse going to Salem. So, but yeah, that's one I'd put on there. Dent Schoolhouse is a big one for me. And then another one I've been wanting to see for a while is Netherworld up in Stone Mountain. And a big reason is because Roy Woolley, one of the face-off guys, is one of the designers there. And he's one of my favorite face-off guys as far as the design, aspect goes. So, but yeah. So yeah, those are cool. But it's just neat when you go to these places, how it just supercharges your brain to think of different things that you're like, holy crap, you come back and you're, so.
So I got to keep you away from these places.
Yeah, it can get expensive.
Yeah, you probably do need to keep it away.
It's a good thing we did to them.
Yeah, that's awesome. So let's see here. With you retheming the haunt here, walk me through who's doing what. I know everybody has kind of a role here, whether you're the electrician or whether you're the carpenter or whatever, maybe the paint, the detail guy. Who does what?
So I would say I'm like the set design, set dressing, like detail work, like basically you're the execution of my ideas, basically. And he has some great ideas too. It's not perfectly split down the middle, but usually I'll have an idea and then he'll help me figure out, like, actually go execute it, or at least help me figure out and then help me go execute it. Construction, he's an engineer.
So you're like Mike from Distortions Unlimited. You make it go.
Yeah. For the most part.
That's
like
awesome.
The bones, I do a lot. The walls. I get the walls up.
Yep.
And
you're doing all the trim.
Yeah, the trim, and get all that. But then Anthony here will do a lot of what you actually see, like you said, more the creative part, like how to stage things. This goes here, this goes there.
Gotcha.
Colors, lighting, all that's him. And,
Well, that's a great dynamic because it's it's kind of funny because I understand that. Like, I was telling somebody that the other day. I was talking to Chris Baker from Huntcast, and if you've ever seen his channel, go check him out. He does a lot of fabrication. The guy is like one of those guys that just makes insane stuff, and you're just like, and he always says, "Oh, you can do this too," and I'm like, no, I can't. I'm like, no. I was like, I understand my limitations. That's one of the best things you can do when you want to build something is understand where your limitations are. And like, I can do some foam work, and stuff like that. But when it comes to like real detail stuff, I'm like, okay, I'm out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I've either got to have. So it's nice to have that person, So, so what would you say? Percentage-wise into realizing your vision, where are you at percentage-wise?
Well, he keeps moving the goalpost.
That's the challenge. Is I can't help myself but think of new ideas, or I'll see something and then that'll start. Like I can't turn my brain off to where I'm constantly thinking about how to make something better, how to do something, what would be cool. And I'm even like, we were laying it out at my basement at my house. We were laying out some of the rooms, making sure all the furniture pieces were going to fit, things like that. And even that, like just seeing the furniture pieces in the space got the ball rolling. So prime example, I called him Thursday night at 8 o'clock, a little after 8 o'clock.
Roughly.
And I said, hey, Dad. He's like, hi. Usually if I call him, something broke and needs to be fixed.
Yeah, I know that. I've experienced that.
Or I have a crazy idea that I want to, bend his ear on. So I called him at like 8 o'clock on Thursday. I'm like, hey, Dad, how difficult do you think it would be? At the time I said dragon head, but I think now we've switched to a giant rat.
Okay.
Anyway, I called him and I said, how difficult do you think it would be to build a pneumatic system that would have, at the time I said dragon head, I think we're going to do a giant rat, come through a wall and be able to move left and right, up and down, and tilt, side to side.
Yeah.
Basically like a 3-axis pneumatic armature that could, house a dragon head or a rat, and that would come through the wall and interact with the guest. And he's like, I will look into that. So
Yep.
it's just something that's like, wasn't anywhere in the plans before. In about 30 seconds, I said, you know what, that would be great in that space, and let's start investigating.
Yeah.
So then I call him. I'm like, idea? How do we do it?
I'm pretty sure I know how that played out. He went to sleep that night. His eyes were wide open when he was sleeping, and I understand that. You hit a key there. And I think most home haunters and pro haunters alike, I think, especially when it comes to design, if you've got that piece in your mind, you're right. Your brain doesn't stop. You know what I mean? And it's funny because there'll be times my wife will be like, she'll be like, why are you still looking at Halloween stuff? And I'm like, I never stop.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, there's always inspiration somewhere. It never fails. So like, it really truly is 24/7. It doesn't end, and I'm always looking at something. And that's probably one of my favorite things to do. I, probably more than home hunts, not more than home hunts, more than pro hunts. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to upset anybody, but there's something about home hunting that it's a little bit of magic almost, because it's just a different thing. It's community driven. It's just a different environment. It's a different feel. Not to say that pro hunts aren't fun. Pro hunts are awesome, but it's just something exciting about traveling and going to these different home hunts and seeing it. It's just, you pull up, you're driving down a neighborhood and you start seeing fog and red lights and you're like, here we go, you know what I mean? Then you see a line of people, and it's just a whole different feel. I can't explain or put my finger on what it is, but it's exciting. But I think most of those people have this situation where their brain is just not going to stop, and you're constantly thinking, you probably subscribe to the same saying that the minute the season is over, your brain is already into next year. Like, what are we going to do next year? So.
Well, we were already into this.
You were building. We
were already drafting 3D models of the rooms and thinking about while we were operating. That was already like in motion. So
That's
we didn't even
wild.
wait for the season to end. We
That's
were like,
wild.
This is what's going to happen. I don't think we ever answered his question, but we're probably what, 40, 30,
Say half.
40% maybe.
All the walls are up and covered. The wallpaper, the paint, and we're working on the trim now. And then the second half would be all the the props coming in and all the
set dressing.
Finding a home for him. Dude, that is a dream. That is a dream. We're not even in April.
Well, the challenge is we're kind of running out of time in terms of when I can work on stuff, because for those of you who don't know, I own a lawn care and landscaping company, and our season is right now, it's kind of in a weird limbo where we've been able to work for a week and then have to take like a week or two off, and then but eventually, especially when April hits, it's like we're just gone. That's why it's so hard to make it like to halfway to Halloween, because it's like mid-May, which is like literally peak. Like that is the busiest we get, is like mid-May. But we kind of forced ourselves to go this year because we bought a booth. So
I was just about to get you beat me to the punch. Speaking of halfway to Halloween, you guys have heard me talk about this probably to a nauseum, and I will continue to. So, get some ginger ale or whatever settles your stomach, because we're going to talk about it some more. Halfway to Halloween, coming up May 10th, it's going to be in Washtenaw Farm Council in Ann Arbor. Or some people would say Saline, depends on tomato, whatever you want to look at. But this year is going to be very exciting. But I wanted to take a moment, since you brought the cat out of the bag. Let's talk more about what you're going to be doing, or what you will be there in facility for halfway to Halloween this year. So
sure, we're gonna have. It's very simple. I think we got like an 8-foot table. I really don't know the details on what all that entails, but basically we're just there to, A1, just kind of advertise and spread awareness that we exist.
Awesome.
That we're doing this big renovation, that we think that this is going to be one of the top home haunts for people to visit, and something really awesome that people can come experience in the fall. And then secondly, we have to make room for all the new props that we're bringing in, which means the props that we've been using have to go. So we may also, A2, be selling some of our, pre-owned props, mainly from Distortions. But, yeah.
Did you hear that, guys? Prop adoptions. Prop adoptions at the Slaughter Creek Manor booth.
Yep.
Need to go to good homes, so they'll be interviewing you to make sure you're a perfect fit for said individuals. Yes. They need to be cared for.
You can adopt a mutant.
Yeah, right. It's your responsibility to make sure it's a good home. So, but yeah, no, that's awesome. That's very cool and exciting at the same time, because I know you guys are moving some pretty doggone awesome props. So God only knows what you got coming in. So that's exciting.
We got a lot of stuff coming in, and should be awesome.
Yep.
So
very exciting. Very exciting. What are some of the things you're excited? I know having a booth means you've got to be an adult and be responsible and stay at your booth, but there's got to be some stuff you're looking forward to at this halfway to Halloween coming up.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't been yet, actually.
This is the first year?
Yeah.
Oh, sweet.
We have never been.
Because like you said, it's always so busy time.
And we really shouldn't be going at all, but sometimes you can talk your boss into letting you get away from work for a day, especially when you are the boss.
You are the boss.
Yeah.
But yeah. So anything you're.
No, like I said, just because it's the first time, I'm just gonna take it in. I'm not sure what to expect.
Yeah. It's fun. Last year was really exciting because it's been kind of neat. We've kind of watched this show from the first time they got into Washtenaw Farm Council. We went to the very first show they had there. They had shows before, I believe, at someplace in Livonia before, but we went for the very first time. I can't remember what the year it is. April and Joel kill me, but it was our very first show at Washtenaw Farm Council, and that's where we actually met April and Joel. We went out to it, and it was awesome then. And it's just been kind of awesome to watch the show just grow into something bigger. Last year, like, they hit a mark I hadn't seen before, and literally, I mean, cars, it looked like Burning Man. There were cars parked on the grass, like, just everywhere. The parking lot got filled up really quick, and they've got a decent-sized parking lot to accommodate plenty of people.
Yep.
So the fact that they had to start pushing people onto the grass was craziness. And the walkthrough was phenomenal. This year, the walkthrough is going to be really exciting because I guess Erebus, Haunt in the Hills, and Scream Machine, obviously, will be working on it, and Nightmare Realm from Kalamazoo. Which, by the way, if you guys haven't been out, we did a video at Nightmare Realm. Fantastic freaking haunt. I think Michigan as a state, and I've said it before, is super underrated as far as what it offers for people who are looking for a destination place to come. You hear people talk about Ohio, and yes, Ohio has a ton, You hear people talk about Chicago. Chicago has some great hunts. But when I start looking around, I go, holy crap, we've got, I mean, from Eloise to Rodden Manor to Nile Screen Park to freaking, to Erebus, you know, I mean, the list goes on and on. I mean, there's a ton that I can just name off the bat. And then there's new stuff that's popping up. So I know last time Scare Factor did a count, and I don't know if this was a full count. I think they had us at 75. I believe we're probably higher than that because there's probably some that aren't on the radar. We're probably close to 80, which Ohio's got 130, which is a lot. But we're still probably in the top 5 in the country for haunted attractions and things to do. Not to mention that just shows. You've got, you know, Wicked Bazaar, you've got Halfway to Halloween, you've got so many things. So I think Michigan really deserves to get a lot more attention for people who are looking and traveling, especially some of you big YouTubers out there. Come on out here and see what we got going on, you know? So, okay, that's awesome. Real quick dumb question here. I have to ask this to everybody because this is, and I don't know if some people would consider this a psychological screening question, but don't take it that way. Pineapple pizza, abomination or stroke of genius?
I'm gonna say it's acceptable with ham, but if it's just pineapple on a pizza, you're insane.
I agree with you, and I'm gonna
It has to be with ham.
I'm gonna take your ham and I'm gonna say add bacon as well.
Never hurts to add bacon.
Yeah, all right.
Abomination.
Abomination. Okay.
Across the board.
Yeah, nothing you can add to overcome that pineapple.
Wow.
Yeah. I love it because people are so all over the place with that question. It's awesome, but it's an important question. You know.
It is.
Yeah. All right. And I know you're probably done with props. Sounds like you guys have, you know, really, you know, done some prop acquisitions. But are there any things you've seen so far this year that are exciting to you, or things that you thought, oh, that's pretty cool, you know, that you've seen so far?
So, I kind of, I'll go.
Go ahead.
So this year was the fastest I've ever bought a prop from seeing to buying. It was when Distortions came out with their Goblin Legend.
Oh gosh, yeah.
The second I saw that prop, I bought it.
Yeah.
That thing is so freaking cool. So I'm really excited to get the Goblin Legend in. We have Pumpkin Witch coming in from Distortions.
Yeah.
We have a lot of props from a lot of different companies coming in that I'm super stoked and excited for.
Yeah. And then at Transworld last year, I don't remember that lady that did those props. She had like a violinist.
Oh, Original Sin.
Sin.
Original Sin. Yeah, phenomenal.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
Anthony at Original Sin.
Yeah.
We got 2 pieces coming in from them.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
One of them is
they're-
the violinist.
Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah. That thing is haunting. That thing is haunting.
It was the most realistic
Yeah.
prop we had ever seen. I mean,
That was very impressive.
it took us a long time to figure out that was a prop.
Yeah.
We thought it was someone waiting to move and
Right.
scare people, and it was just like 5 minutes went by without a move, and you're like, is that a... So we got the violinist coming in and the candelabra coming in from Original Sin. We have something coming in from Ghost Ride.
Nice. Yeah. Ghost Ride, another great. They
Yeah.
do some phenomenal stuff.
We have stuff coming in from Unit 70. We actually have a lot of stuff coming in from Unit 70. Like I said, Distortions, Haunted Hills Production, Dapper Cadaver, probably forgetting Adam Jess Effects.
Oh, wow.
Probably forgetting some.
I don't know.
Yeah. I don't
Even
think
with that being said,
I don't
that's
think he wants to know what.
A lot of this is news to me.
Yeah, right.
We
Yeah.
we have a lot of props coming in from a lot of different. Nevermore.
Okay.
We have stuff coming in from Nevermore. Yeah. So there's probably more I'm forgetting.
That's a hell of a roster. That's an insanely hell of a roster.
Poison props.
Oh yeah. Okay.
We have one thing coming in from Poison props.
Okay. Very cool. Well, I'm really jazzed to see this stuff come together. That is quite the concert right there. They're definitely I love Original Sin. two companies I really enjoy, and I've said they fall into the line of Hauntingly Beautiful, Original Sin, and then the other one was it's gonna drive me crazy. Why can't I? This was on the tip of my head.
Dark Dusk Productions.
Dust Productions.
Dusk Productions.
Yeah, Dust Productions. Yeah, those.
Yeah, their stuff is cool.
Yeah. Both of them just had these things where you just look at it and you just got like, I've been staring at this for like 15 minutes. I need to break the trance here. So, but yeah,
they have some really cool. They from last year to this year, their booth was dramatically improved.
Oh yeah, big time. Yeah, I one I really wanted to get into that I fell in love with them last year at Transworld, and this year I got a few pieces and I want to do more. It's funny, like I want more mannequins, but mannequins are getting more expensive. I don't know what's going on. For a while they were like, you find a deal here and there, but now you're just like, between shipping, you're just like, dude, what used to, I miss the days where you could find a closing store and, hand them $20 and walk away with it. But now you're having to order these, and I think the last couple that I got, I spent like $130 after shipping was said and done, and it's just like, holy crap. But I've been looking at Closed Casket Productions because they do heads. They do, they basically are like closed masks, but they end up being foam heads that you can use. And I was sitting there looking at some of the ones that they did, and if you've ever looked at, they just do. I mean, it's just crazy, some of the detail and some of the things they've got. So I thought, this year I'll probably get a few of those heads, plop them on the mannequins, and then work on the costuming part myself, which is, speaking of which, have you had to deal with that, distressing costume, doing all that stuff yourself, or do you normally look for a place that does, like Research Wicked or a place that does?
Yeah, there's zero artistic.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of artistic.
We are not artists by any means. Yeah. So even doing the stuff that we're doing is really pushing our limits.
Well, that is art. It's just different level. I mean, that's one thing I thought about doing, because I went to Value World and just bought a bunch of clothes. I was like, let me just get some flannels, get some jeans, and just because I'm just sitting here going, paint. A shredder, and maybe some moss and some adhesive, some spray adhesive. Pretty much, I was like, I should be able to pull something off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but that's the goal. So, but yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I can't wait to see how you put these together. That's a lot, man. That's a huge roster. Tell us about your schedule as far as the season goes. As I know, are you guys going to be most of October, or is it going to be just give us basically what you think your soft schedule would be?
Yep. So our schedule is usually pretty much the same every year. We're open every Saturday in October, the last Sunday in October, and Halloween.
Okay.
So that is pretty much always our schedule, is every Saturday in October, the last Sunday in October.
Before Halloween. Sunday before Halloween.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. And then, of course, Halloween night.
Yeah.
So I think that's 6 nights this year.
But I just looked at the calendar the other day, and Halloween's on a Friday.
Yeah.
So I was wondering about that
changer.
Saturday, November 1st.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe a behind the scenes tour, but I have convictions with being open after Halloween.
Yeah, I completely understand that. I said the same thing. But I figure, though, if it's the weekend, you could probably get away with it. It's when Halloween falls on those weird days, like last year. What was it, Monday or Tuesday or something last year?
Last year was Thursday.
It was Thursday, yeah.
The year before that, though, was Tuesday, because we had the leap year. So
that was weird. But I think you can always bookend a weekend. You know what I mean? It's like you probably get away. But yeah, I know. I think a lot of people, especially when you're in a community and there's kids, parents, their brains are shifted the minute it goes November. Yeah. Their brains have shifted. You know what I mean? So, and then you're left with those real core hardcore junkies who come through, which is a much smaller group. So, but yeah.
November 1st for me is a day of grieving. It's literally my least favorite day in the entire year. November 1st sucks.
Yeah, I get you. It's funny with that.
My cousin's birthday, though.
It's funny because with that being said, I always think about this. I feel like I have two different schools of thought, and there's two sides in me emotionally when it comes to this. Because there's a part of me that loves Halloween all year long. There's a part of me that loves that, but then there's a part of me that goes, I don't want to burn this into the ground. So whenever I hear somebody going, I'm going to do a year-round Halloween thing, there's a part of me that is like, I don't know, man, because, our society has a tendency to overconsume and destroy things. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Just burn it to the ground. It's like, no, I like the fact that there's something about the exclusivity of when it's gone, it's gone.
Yep.
You better get it while you can, and it's gone. So I definitely walk in those two worlds where I'm like, I love the Halloween off season as long as it stays the off season.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And it doesn't, I know people are getting into the whole summer ween thing, and I'm just like, oh, dude.
I don't know about you, but I am very far in the category of haunted houses. Halloween is in that season. I'm not a Christmas haunt, Valentine's haunt, anything, because you just have that short season, and that's what makes it so special.
Yep.
And you look forward to it every year. You just cannot wait for it to be September, October, and when it's operating, you're taking everything in with such grace, because that
it's limited.
It's limited.
Yeah.
And once it's over, it is a long off season.
Yeah. You'll
be back in
savoring it. Yeah.
So it just makes it so special. And I think once you start branching outside of that season, in my opinion, obviously nothing against anyone who feels differently or does anything different, but for me, anything outside of that, it just, as much as you enjoy and you want, and you're in that mode all year, thinking about Halloween and wanting it to be haunt season and things like that, if you do start branching out, I think it does take away the specialness of that short season, and you kind of water it down. That's my opinion, but...
Well, that makes me feel less crazy, because I felt like, I'm like, man, am I divided? Like, my house divided, because I feel two different ways. And don't get me wrong, I love, Trans World and all these events, Midwest and East Coast, but that feels like the ramp up. It doesn't feel it's Halloween. It's the ramp up. Right. Like, we're getting ready. Like, here's what's here. Right. Here's some ideas. Right. So it's all the ramp up. So when I see stuff, and don't get me wrong, I am excited about. Matter of fact, that's probably one of the things that's on our plan for 2026. I put the cat out of the bag. I was talking to them about taking 2026 off as a home hunter and just focusing more on vlogging and more just enjoying the season. But one of the things I was excited about was Universal Horror Unleashed in Las Vegas. I do want to see that. But there's a part of me, once again, they're talking about being year-round, and I'm like, yeah. I'm like, and I've always said that I don't think that's, what's the word I'm looking for? What do you call that? Sustainable. I don't think it's sustainable, because I think, one, you're just going to either burn things out, and you could, so I don't know how to feel about it. I do want to see it. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. And I'm kind of worried, because I almost wanted, because one of my friends got tickets this year, but I'm like, there's no way we make it this year. But I'm like, are they going to, by the time 2026 rolls around, are they going to be like, oh crap, we bit off more than we could chew. Maybe we're going to change the schedule. Maybe we're not going to be year round. Yeah. And I know they did their homework and demographics with it being Vegas and that being heavily tourism involved. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Yeah. But yeah, that's good. I had to ask you that, because I have feelings about that. And I know some people are really trying to push for that. We even had, I think, there was a guy who was going to do a haunt in Irish Hills out here, who was a horror producer, who wanted to do a year-round hunt. And I was just like, oh God, please don't do it. I was like, please don't. I go, it may be a novel idea for 1 year, and the fall off will happen so fast, you won't be ready for it, So, and I'd rather, if you got something good, I'd rather you sustain it and keep it so we can all enjoy it. But
are you in that camp too?
Yeah, I think, limited to its season, and and move on, and look forward to the next season.
Right. Yep. But I do grieve, though. I understand what you're saying. Like, once it's over, last year was weird, but most of the time, I'm breaking stuff down. It just feels like it happened so fast, and I didn't get a chance to enjoy it, and you're just kind of like crap. And then I spend November through January looking for home hunts. You know what I mean, and watching home hunts. So but at the same time, it's like you said, the specialness never wears off. So you anticipate it a little more. Here's a fun one, especially with all the investment you put into what you guys do work-wise and everything, hours and, blood, sweat, and tears. Are there any plans to go beyond home hunting?
That is the question, isn't it? There's been a lot of talk with myself, because similar to like how you feel about where you're kind of torn, between, the seasonality versus all year round stuff. I'm kind of torn between staying a home haunt and going pro. I think, I don't know how you feel, but I have some insight, and I think you've talked about this before, about why you guys aren't really looking to go pro, is given that I do own and run a lawn care and landscaping business. I have very clear firsthand experience, and always feel like I'm dealing with all the externalities that come, from just, it's not just the business. You're dealing with so much, other stuff. And we're kind of testing the waters a little bit this year again with like trying to make it as pro level as possible, trying to see, we registered the haunt, as a business, to try to test the waters to see if, on that small level, if that could be potentially profitable, kind of gather information and try to figure out from there. So I know it's kind of a disappointing answer, but the real answer is I don't know.
No, that's not disappointing at all. That's real.
For me personally, I don't know about him, but for me, I just don't know. Yet, I think we're trying to collect more data. There is a part of me that absolutely would love to go pro, but then there's other part of me that wonders if that would take a little bit of the
enjoyment out of it.
More your time is, right now a lot of my time can just be spent on, the fun stuff. But when you're running a full-fledged, large scale, pro haunt with all the business, BS that you have to deal with.
Yep.
Again, I know firsthand, believe me.
Yep.
You almost feel like you spend more time on that than, the actual meat and potatoes of the business. But I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely, probably more enjoyable as a hobby than trying to make a business and worry about profits and all that other stuff. So,
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. We're testing a little bit on a small scale with our haunt to see if that could be profitable and help us get more data, but in the immediate future, I'd say definitely not. Staying a home haunt and enjoying the fun parts of it.
I understand that fully. And I think that's a safe answer. And I don't have anything against anybody who wants to do either way. It really comes down to, it's a subjective thing. It really comes down to what you want out of it. Now, my biggest fear, because I was talking to I talked to Eric Lothar on Instagram at one point. He is the one who ran Haunted Overload, and his story is insane. Because he was a home hunter. And I love hearing these stories because he was a rarity. You hear all of the home hunter transition stories, and usually most of them have the aspiration, like I want to go pro, like I'm just trying to get, my chops together and things like that. His situation was he outgrew his neighborhood. And they were like, dude, we love what you're doing, bro, but you got to stop.
Yeah.
You got to stop. Traffic is a problem. And so that's another part of me that is scared because I'm like, as the notoriety grows. I mean, because we're still pretty young. I think we've only done this for, I think this will be our 7th year. So I'm like, as the notoriety grows, right now we have the support of our neighborhood and our community, and it's awesome. But at the same time, I know that can flip, and I've seen you see these heartbreaking. There's a neighborhood in California in the Inland Empire. I forget the name of the neighborhood. It's in Greater Los Angeles. But these guys, it was one of those crazy all-out Halloween neighborhoods where kind of like, basically it's kind of like Romeo on steroids. If you know about Tilson Street, you know what I mean? Is that on steroids? I mean, everybody's involved. It's just insane. People don't even park. Everybody's just walking in the roads because it's just, and the city, for the first time, and they've been doing this for decades now, and last year was the first time I felt horrible for them. Like, my heart literally broke for them, but the city stepped in and said, that's it. You're not doing this anymore. And it was just like, holy crap. And they did a ton of good with a lot of the charitable things that they were doing and with all of that. And we're not just talking streets, we're talking a neighborhood. Like, so imagine going through the subdivision and everybody's involved, you know what I mean? So yeah, seeing stuff like that, that's a real fear awakened for me, is just, what happens if, we logistically become a problem, what then? All right. Here's a fun one here. If you are putting an essential pack together for a future aspiring home hunter, what would be your must-haves for them to get through hunt season? If you're putting like a survival pack, like what is that pack going to have in it? Like, you need these things. What's in that pack?
That's a really good question.
Yeah. You mean like as far as physical things or
things? I'll throw one in. And I think it's an essential. Black spray paint. You better have it. If you're going to get through the hunt season, somewhere in your arsenal, there better be some black spray paint. I can't tell you how important that is. It's like, I don't care about any other color. Black freaking spray paint. That's going in the bag. So there's one of my essentials.
Duct tape, of course.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
But yeah, I think when you're running, you always want to have we always have the stapler on hand.
Yeah, all right.
To fix something, or
we have a cart.
Tape, or
we have a cart full of tools.
There you go.
A light so you can quickly get in there and fix something, or somebody's having a problem.
Yep.
You always need those sort of quick patches on hand while you're operating.
Yep.
But I think as far as the intangibles, you just got to be flexible and adaptable, because you're just not sure what can happen. One time we had somebody this is back when we used black plastic for our walls.
Don't do that.
Somebody got so scared they went completely through the wall.
I was gonna say
back out, into the driveway. And so,
if it's any consolation, I've heard of people going through drywall too. So I guess there's not much you can do about the person.
It's harder, but black plastic wasn't too hard to get. So we shut everything down for 15 minutes while we fixed all that, but people are very accommodating. That's the good part.
Yeah,
everybody takes it in stride.
Yep.
And I think that goes back. We have a professional hunt where people are paying for something. There's that expectation.
It changes everything. Yeah,
changes everything.
Yep.
When you're doing this for fun, to raise money for charity.
Yep.
Most people are very accommodating and.
Yep.
Yeah. So you need a loud voice, I think. Especially, I usually am the host at the front door, and there's so many people, and they're all yelling, they're excited to get in, but you still got to communicate.
Let them know the rules.
And so, you might want a megaphone.
That's a good one.
So make sure you're heard. I got to get one of those, I think.
A mic of some sort.
You're trying to talk over the music.
Yep.
That's a good. You want a good sound system, I think.
That's definitely an essential. That's
Yeah,
definitely an
essential to go
essential.
with-
You guys do a great job too at that. The scoring, you walk through, and I feel like not enough people do that. Soundscaping, I think, is super important because it's we talk about 3 dimensions or 4 dimensions. That's one of those dimensions. You know what I mean? Sight, smell, sound. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So if you can start, penciling in all of those, then all of a sudden you really have immersion, which is really neat. But every time I go in, I always love the soundscaping that you hear every room, and it almost has this tension building to it, which you guys do a good job of having a score that really kind of gets you kind of tense when you're walking through, which
Right.
is awesome. Because sometimes you see these scenes and they're pretty, but they're just you're like, something's missing here. It's just either it's way too quiet or there's the other annoyance. Nothing, I don't want to be mean, but when you've got 50 animatronics all going off at once, it's just like, oh my god, and my mind just wants to go, shut up. You know what I mean? But yeah, so I think that scoring is important in building your story and helping people get immersed in suspension of disbelief, all it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
I
you
have one thing.
Yeah.
One thing that I don't know if it's more of advice, but I'll preface this by saying no matter how hard we try to predict how people will behave in our haunt, we still every year get surprised by someone's ability to do something that we could not anticipate.
Oh yeah.
Whether it's something getting broken or the way people are moving through, you try to predict. So, I guess try to predict how people are going to behave in your haunt, and then build it as if they will not do that. So, I would say build your haunt
for the worst case scenario.
For what you can try to, for the worst case. For example, this is a good example. We have big stained glass windows going in our haunt.
Okay.
This fall, and part of the effect is it's plexiglass, but there are shards of plexiglass that are in the window to make it look shattered.
Right.
We have very strict rules on do not touch anything, nothing will touch you. However, we built those windows predicting that someone is going to reach their hand through it.
Yep.
And try to touch it, so there's a second plexiglass screen so that nobody could actually touch those shards.
Yep.
So that's a prime example of building it in a way that it goes above and beyond how people should behave, because when they're in there, you get it, but when you're in there, they're excited, they're with their friends. I always tell, it's amazing how violent it gets in there. People will full on throw their body weight, into your walls. So you have to build stuff with a incredible safety factor.
Yeah.
And just anticipate, people going well above and beyond what you think they're gonna do, and build your haunt to withstand way more than it should. Encounter, but it will, because believe me, people that even knowing what we know, doing this now 13 years, every year someone surprises us with, I did not know someone would do that.
Wow.
So then but you try to think as far ahead as you can and go, let's look at this. What are the potential, risks here? What do we think? How are people going to move through this? If we put this here, someone's falling over this. You have to think about the worst case scenario on how people are going to behave. And you'll still be surprised, but at least if you plan for it and try to cover as much of your bases as you can, that'll really set you. So that's a must.
That's a 100%.
Just build it to be really freaking strong.
Yes, definitely in layman's terms, idiot-proof your walkthrough haunt.
Yes.
Idiot-proof it, because idiots will come. I hate to say that. It's just the truth. And you know what? I subscribe. I have been idiots on days my own self. So I know if I can be an idiot at any point, anybody else can too as well. So, and that kind of goes into what I was going to ask next. But I think, yeah, that's definitely a part of the essentials. You know what I mean? As far as things you need. I was going to say, what advice would you give to this aspiring home hunter? That'll be a good segue into that. What are some other pieces of advice? Somebody comes up to you, I want to start a home hunt next year. What are some things you're giving? What are some gems you're dropping in his jewel box there?
Don't. No, I'm just kidding.
There's that. There is that.
Because once you cross that line, there is no going back.
Yeah.
There is something in your mind that will permanently change once you start.
You will
be
be
able
broken.
To stop.
Yep.
You will only want to get bigger and better. No, do it. All kidding aside, do it. It's awesome. I'll let you. If you got pieces of advice.
Start small with modest expectations and learn as you grow as you learn.
Yep.
Don't try to go to a 100 miles an hour right out of the gate.
Yeah.
Because there's quite a bit to it.
Yeah.
There's a learning curve.
Yes.
And some of these resources that you've mentioned, like Halfway to Halloween, there's all these people you can go to those shows and events and start picking other people's brains that have been there, done that, and learn a lot that way.
Yep.
I think you hit the nail on the head. Just talk to people.
Yeah.
You will be surprised at how unbelievably helpful this community is.
Yep.
And like myself, I would almost rather not, there's nothing I love more than talking about Halloween, talking about haunted attractions, especially like specific, questions and things that are new. Like, I love talking about it. I think everyone in this industry feels the same way, as they love talking about Halloween. They love helping people. They love to be able to ask questions and get help. So just, if you're thinking about starting a home haunt, that's awesome. We need more. It's a growing industry. It's getting better and better. And I think just talk to home haunters that have done it.
Yep.
And you'll save yourself a lot of headache, because it's I don't think a lot of the people that go through it. I have a piece of advice too after this, but it's really surprising, and it surprises myself. We've been doing this for 13 years now. Doing this renovation, I surprise myself all the time. Mm-hmm. You would not think that this would be so difficult to pull off whatever project you're working on, and always takes more time, more money, more thought than you think. Like, I don't know, like, the people that are going through the haunt, or like the general public, or anyone that's thinking about starting a home haunt, just like plan for things to take way more time than you think, to be way more expensive than you think, and to be way more complicated than you think. It is not easy. It is just not easy. Like, even going into this, again, we've been doing this for such a long time. Going into this, I am shocked where we are right now in terms of budget, which has gone out the freaking window.
Yeah, it always does. It always does.
Time schedule. We just add this little, and it snowballs. So, just again, along with how you build your haunt in terms of strength, build your budget, and build your timeline the same way. Pad it. Make it way more than you think, because believe me, it is incredible how quickly, you can blow through your budget, you can blow through your timeline, and just like one little added thing or one little project will just, it can add, it opens a door that just leads to many more doors that, you change one thing and all of a sudden 50 things are changing. And you didn't really anticipate it, but now you're into it. So I just whatever it is.
Very true.
Double or triple, quadruple, 10x, whatever, believe me. It's amazing how much more involved it is than you think it is.
Sorry, I got a few more for you here. So you both have to answer this independently here. So, and this is another one of those, you can call it a psychological question if you want. It's really not. Top 5 horror films, personally.
So, can this include limited series?
Yep, whatever. There's no rules. Whatever. Top 5.
Okay. Does it have to be in order?
No.
Okay.
No.
In no particular order. I'm gonna have to go with. I love miniseries, so there's gonna be quite a few miniseries on here. I'm gonna go with The Watcher.
Okay.
On Netflix. Devil in Ohio on Netflix.
Okay, I haven't seen that one.
That one's incredible.
Okay.
I would have to say, yeah. Don't ask me which one I watched, but Halloween is a classic.
Okay. Yep.
Saw The Nun. And for 5th, to round out the top. We don't watch a lot of horror films, if that's not obvious.
It's funny how that works. That seems to be pretty common.
I'm getting more into it.
Yeah.
And then the 5th, it's kind of nostalgic because it was like my best friend growing up showed it to me. But I'll probably have to say like The Grudge.
Okay. All right. Yeah. All right. Cool. Very cool. Very cool. All right. All right.
Yeah, I don't watch many horror films.
If you have any, you can add to it. You know, in the.
I mean, Halloween. I remember watching that when I was younger.
Yeah.
That was very good. The original, the first Halloween was really good. And then I'll say Psycho.
Okay. All right. I like it.
It's really way back. I really like that one. I think Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh, okay, all right. Aren't they coming out with a new version of that?
I don't know.
I've heard some talk that there's going to be a what at this point a 4.0. You know, probably. But yeah, I've heard some talk of that. But yeah, that's all right.
You like, and I like too, but it's not really. I don't know if it's really constituted as horror. Probably not. But you're more like mystery, like your Knives Out.
Yeah, that's a
great film. Great film. Period.
Murder mysteries.
Mysteries
Not
are
the classic horror.
fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. I always like asking this question because I think as hunters, there's a gray area in the back of us, and we don't realize that some of that stuff is perpetuating what we create and what we do. So, like for instance, like I'm a big fan of James Wan. Huge fan. You know, that's your Insidious, your Conjuring. And the reason I'm a fan of him is because he is so good on what I call the approach. Because I realize horror really is complex. I think it's probably harder than any other genre. You know what I mean? Because if you have strong performances in most other like drama or comedy, you know, that carries it. But in horror, there's too many elements that have to be right. Your lighting has to be right. Your camera angle has to be right. You know, everything, you know. So he's the master of this approach, and he builds like tension, like so well to where, you know, nothing has even happened, but your skin's crawling. And so I've always wanted to try to accomplish that as a home haunter, to try to get and create these tense environments where people are, and it's funny because sometimes it's just a simple thing. You know what I mean? Just finding ways. That's why I think I've been getting more into statics, because statics are they mess with people so bad. I think sometimes animatronics animatronics, and I know some people are down on animatronics, but I think they're perfect. I think there has to be a perfect balance in a haunt. Nothing should be and even acting shouldn't be over relied on. Animatronics shouldn't be over relied on. But those things need to work in concert together. You know what I mean? Right. So to me, I feel like those animatronics serve as a perfect setup tool. You can use those a lot of times. I've also seen people effectively, when we went to Nightmare Realm, I think that is probably, if you ever get a chance, watch the video, they probably did the best. Niles did too in some areas, but they did the best I've seen in using poison props as scare props. You know what I mean? They're meant to be scare props, but most of the time they're just not scary, because people just don't set them up right.
Right.
But the way they set them up to angles and all that, it goes right back to what we're talking about, the approach and setting up tension to where you're just you're not prepared for whatever comes your way. But that's why I've always been into James Wan. I always ask that question because I like to see what's floating around in the ether for people when they're creating. So
I do have to add A Quiet Place.
Oh yeah, that's
You talk about tension building.
that last one was phenomenal.
Yeah.
They ended that really well. I was surprised, but yeah,
I love A Quiet Place. I can't believe I didn't say that earlier, but yeah, A Quiet Place is awesome, especially tension building.
Yes.
It's
Yep.
awesome.
Yeah, to where and that's the art. It's funny because I'm not really into slashers because they're kind of like, it is what it is. It's like, to me, there's okay. So you threw a head at me and you cut somebody open, and if that's what you're predicating the scare on, you've already lost me. You know what I mean? I think some of the scariest things, it takes a lot more art to really scare people, and it's probably because I was desensitized growing up as a kid. I grew up in the gore area, with Reanimator and Scanners and all these movies that were just trying to be gross.
Yeah.
And I think I got desensitized. I would read Fangoria magazine growing up. I don't even know if that's still around, but it was a magazine and it just show you all the gore scenes from every horror movie. And I grew up, reading that, and you're just like, oh man. So now as an adult, I'm kind of like, whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, when I see Terrifier and people are going crazy over Terrifier, I'm like, I've watched them and I've really tried to lend myself to it, but I'm just like, I'm not impressed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? On the other hand, I'd much rather watch somebody like Mike Flanagan. If you've seen Netflix, Haunting of Bly Manor or Hill House.
Yeah, that's on my list.
Yeah, those are great. And he's, like, once again, it's just that eeriness where you're just like, wow, man, you made my skin crawl, and you haven't, just with the setting. He'll just show a hallway, and the hallway and the way he shoots it, you're just like, oh man, I don't like this. You know what I mean? So it's just, I love that art.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, I digress.
Come talk to us. See us at Halfway to Halloween. Love to, meet more people in the industry. We're kind of just breaking into the scene a little bit here. We've been kind of in our own corner of the world, but we're learning that what all's out there and all the other people, and we love talking about Halloween, haunted attractions, and meeting new people, and kind of getting our foot more in the social groups. So we'd love to meet you guys at Halfway to Halloween, and come visit us at Slaughter Creek Manor in October. We got quite a show for you. So
Very cool. Very cool. Looking forward to it.